Hi, we're in Fresno, California at the Fresno Rescue Mission. There's a gentleman here, I want you to hear his story. Michael, so tell us a little bit about, first of all, where you're at and what you're doing here, but I also want to hear a little bit about your past. Tell me a little bit about your past.
Sure. Again, Mike Hamilton. I'm here at the Fresno Rescue Mission. I am in my final stages of an 18-month drug and alcohol rehabilitation program, and also a staff member here as a community care provider, working with the homeless and the respite care program. As far as my past, I was born and raised in Bakersfield, California. Spent the last 20 years in Denver, Colorado. Kind of an up and down past. Managed to have a great career. I got to play hockey. Had a great ex-fiance, raised a child. But during all that process, one thing I realized I didn't need, or felt I didn't need at that time, was God. Did not need God in my life at all. And so during that last 20 years, I decided I could live life without God until came here to Fresno and got myself in a little bit of trouble with the law, and realized at that point that the only person I had to turn to was God, and decided to set some conditions for myself and for God if I was going to return to Him. And God has not only answered my prayers, but made everything even better than I thought it would be, and here I am.
Well, let's go back to your past for a
Sure.
minute. You told me that, of course, for over 20 years you didn't need God, but you also told me you had a daughter.
Yes.
So tell me what happened to your daughter.
Okay. In 2000, we were in New Orleans, Louisiana, and my daughter developed pneumonia, and she was also prone to asthma. And she ended up getting an asthma attack while having pneumonia, and it ended up killing her. She was just under 9 years of age, and when she died.
Well, that's awful. So at that point when your daughter died, did you go to God?
No, actually, that was a big turning point for me, because before then I just said I didn't need God in my life. I had everything I wanted. But at that point when she died, I denounced God and decided that from that point forward I was going to be an atheist. God would have nothing to do with me, or I would have nothing to do with God in my life. And from that point forward, by anyone asked, I was an atheist.
So I'm hearing you were very angry with God after your daughter passing. Is that correct?
I was very angry. I had a chaplain tell me that my daughter was in a better place now that she was dead, and that it was just her time to go. And to me, I felt that was just the wrong thing to say to somebody who was grieving, and it angered me. So I said a few choice words to the chaplain and said a few choice words to God, and I left God out of my life from that point forward, and that was from 2000 till now.
Okay, so, and also I know by talking to you a little bit last night, you told me that your father was on death row.
Yes.
So can you just give me a little glimpse of that life and what happened there and how that affected you?
Sure. In 1981 actually, my father murdered my mother, who was 7.5 months pregnant, and was sentenced to the death penalty for killing her and for killing an unborn child, which in California allows the death penalty. So he was given death row up until 2 years ago. After 30 years being on death row, his sentence was overturned, and he's now awaiting to be resentenced in county jail.
Can you imagine going through all this, the loss of your mother from your father and unborn sibling, and then your daughter to die? The struggles he had to go through just to cope with every day was more than we could bear, much less anything else that he'd have along the way, just everyday stress. So tell me that once you got here, tell me how you got to Fresno.
Well, I came out here to take part in the process of my father's going back through the court system again in Tulare County. And I came out here at a very bad time for California. There was no work, nothing doing, so I decided to turn to crime to make a quick buck. And obviously I'm a lousy criminal. I got caught and I had some other things happen, and that just it ended up putting me in jail. And at that point, to me, that was the only low. I lost everything while I was in jail. Lost everything I owned. So once I was released, I had nowhere else to turn. I was considered homeless. I was required to go through a drug and alcohol treatment program. Didn't know what else to do, so I was there.
So tell me about your drug and alcohol addictions.
Really not a drug addiction so much as just alcohol. Drugs have never really been a part of my life, but alcohol certainly has. I certainly did my share of drinking. I couldn't go a day without at least some sort of drink.
So here we go. Your life as an atheist, your daughter died, your father killed your mother, you lost a sibling, and then you lost everything worldly that you had, and then you went to jail because of a crime that you were just trying to survive with, and you still had not gone to God. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so tell me about that turning point, that when you said, okay, enough is enough, I've gone through all these things, I have nowhere else to turn. Tell me exactly at that moment, what happened? You said, finally, God, I'm done, take me. Take my life and use it as you want. What happened at that moment?
Well, when I came here to the mission, I realized nobody was on my side. I had no family to turn to. The family I reached out to, my grandparents who raised me, turned their backs on me. My sisters turned their backs on me, so I had no one left. And I came here to the Fresno Rescue Mission, and they immediately told me this was a Christian program, and I went, oh, great. So God's really got it out for me now, but I thought I could fake it to make it. I'll go through the motion, and it didn't take very long before I started realizing that a lot of what I'm hearing is what I needed. And before long, I was completely drawn in and reevaluating my faith, and realized that God never turned his back on me. I turned my back on him. And even after all these years, he was still accepting me back with open arms. And that was refreshing for me.
That's kind of neat. A lot of people always say, oh, God's not in my life and this and that. But God never has left us ever. It's always us that leave him.
That's right.
And he's always there. He's always in the midst, just waiting to say, hey, I'm here. Whenever you want me, I'm here. And so many times we just don't really understand that, but he really always is. And as all the people I speak to in the streets, they just really don't, a lot of people don't understand that. But this is a perfect example of how things could really go wrong in your life. And look where he is now. God was always there. Now God is in his heart. So tell me about when you went ahead and went in the program, you decided, Lord, this is it. So how long was you here? And tell me how you're working right now and how you became to be in the position you're in.
Well, like I said, came here just completely down. Nothing left to give. The Fresno Rescue Mission put me into their 18-month-long program, which is a rehabilitation program, but it's faith-based, so I was able to get plenty of Bible study, classes that I would need, and eventually, as you progress through the program, they start you into work therapy. They help you to get a job, and before long, as I reached the twilight of my program here, I was offered a job here.
Yeah, I seen you're quite the little leader. I seen you last night in charge of all the security and a bunch of other different things. Tell us what you do here.
I'm considered a community care provider. I work with a lot of the homeless that come in off the street that are looking to transition back into society as productive members, and it's a 30-day transitional period for them. And what we do is we just offer them the help that they need. We provide them a place to sleep, food, clothing, anything that they need to help get going again. So we don't see too much of them. But we also have a respite program here for men who are medically indigent and have nowhere else to go. And we help them with their medical needs. Again, providing food, shelter, but also making sure that they get their medications. And then in our overnight, which is what I worked with last night into this morning, we just kind of oversee the security of the Fresno Rescue Mission, making sure that everyone's in good shape. We check on the homeless out on the street, make sure they're okay, and then attend to emergencies as necessary.
I gotta tell you, I was really impressed last night when I met him. The way I met him is he come to me because he heard I wanted to walk down the streets at night last night to visit with the homeless. Because if you could just see how it is here, there's just rows and rows of tarps with making their own little tents along the freeway and the underpass and stuff. So he sent 4 beautiful people with me last night, big, young, strong guys, to walk out there with me before I could go out and minister to the people on the street. But, that was an exception because not everybody does that. But, it just showed the love that he has here for everybody and the homeless by just being so passionate with everyone. You can tell his passion when he talks and how he looks, and you can see the glow of God around him. And I'm so excited we got to do his story because his story is going to touch your life. I did mine, and that's why I couldn't wait to talk to him this morning. But let me ask you one other thing, Michael. If you had 1 minute to tell everybody watching this one thing about you or them or what they should do in life with Lord, what would that be?
Regardless of who you are, where you come from, what your situation is, it doesn't matter. Open the Bible, start reading, and you'll find your way back to God, and you'll realize that God never left you. Regardless of how we felt towards God, He's always going to have open arms, and we'll find our way back.
Awesome. Well, what's so amazing is we all do know the way of life is the Bible, Jesus through the Bible. But you know what? The Bible is a living Bible. It's not a history book. I've said that many times because what goes on there 2,000 years ago is going on now today. People's on the streets just like they were back then. There's miracles right now like there were back then. And Jesus is the hope of the nation. Michael, thank you so much for letting me interview you today. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we go?
No, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. It's the first time I've actually given my testimony, so.
Well, God bless you, and you're going to be in our prayers. I know you've gone through a lot, and we know that a lot of you have gone through a lot too, but this right here is an example of what God can do and turn around in your life, no matter what you have done or where you've been, and anything. He can take care of all of it for you. Look up when you're down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everything I do, I give it all to you. All that I can ask for.